So my name is Catherine Seaver. I'm the director of the Business, Engineering, and Technology Academic Division at MCC. I came to MCC about 10 and a half years ago as a member of the Computer Science Department faculty. Before that, I worked in different companies as an engineer, as a computer systems engineer, a lot of different areas, a lot of different companies. I went to school at Miami University in Ohio for manufacturing engineering. I actually always wanted to be a veterinarian, but somehow I ended up in engineering. And I had done some training for Microsoft and Novell, which is another networking company, before I came here for my interview, and they hired me.
All right. Was there any reason you decided to come to MCC for an interview?
I had been on the campus a couple times. Yeah. When my kids were little, they went to the Excursions and Learning program here. I had come here to look at a course schedule when my son was about 3. I was thinking of changing careers into programming from engineering. So I had been on campus. It was nearby. I felt like I needed to find a place to work where I could stay because I had changed jobs about every 3 to 4 years up to that point. Okay. And I was reaching the point I thought I should retire from someplace someday. So I saw the ad online, and I read the description. I said, I could do that. And so I wrote an application and a letter and sent it in, and they called me for an interview. And
so tell us what the hiring process was like. What did you have to go through?
Wow, that was different than anything I'd ever been through before. My interview was rescheduled a few times, so it ended up that I was sick the day that I had my interview. I had a bad cold, but I didn't want to reschedule it again because we'd already been through a couple of dates. So I came in for my interview, and it was an interview with the committee, and I had never done that before. I had always done one-on-one, very casual interviews. So I sat down. They gave me a list of about 20 questions and about 30 seconds to review it, and oh my gosh. But the first thing I did was do my teaching demonstration. And so I stood up. I did a little demonstration of teaching with a Kleenex box in my hand, thinking they're never going to hire me because I'm disgusting today. And then I sat down and answered the questions and didn't feel comfortable that it went well because I was just not used to that venue. At the end, the person who was the director of division at that time gave me a tour of the campus for about a half an hour. And I was so impressed with the campus and the people. And I also couldn't believe he was taking this much time to show me around. I thought that was maybe a good sign. Yeah. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from the academic dean. She invited me in for a second interview. We had a wonderful meeting, and at the end, she offered me a job. Okay. And I said yes.
You said you had a tour of the campus, so what was here at the time?
The LRC, the low building, the LRC. Okay. The lower campus was still here, but not really being used. The AST was under construction at that point. Right. Okay. So we looked at it, and the tower was up, at least a skeleton part of it, and he said, you may have an office up there, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. So the AST opened just after I started here.
All right. So give us your first impressions of, your first day in the classroom now. What was it like? What did you feel like?
I was nervous, not about teaching the content, but I had never taught at a college before. I was a Microsoft certified trainer. I'd done lots of professional training. I'd never made a quiz or a test. So I was very comfortable delivering the information, doing all that. But when it came to grading and making exams, I always say I feel bad for those students I had the first semester because I just hadn't quite figured out how to handle that part of it yet. Yeah. But it fell into place pretty quick.
And how did the students differ from some of the training work that you've been doing compared to the students in the college classroom?
The whole environment was different. The students were there because they wanted to be and not because their employer had said you need to go to training for 5 days. Right. Also, I was now delivering content over a period of 15 weeks that I used to do in 40 hours from Monday through Friday. And when we did training, it was like that. It was like training your dog. I would put information out there. I didn't really care if they learned it because I had to move on and get to the next information. Right. Now I could settle in. I could get to know the students. I could teach them something. We could play with it. We could, build networks. So I would assess them to see if they learned it, answer questions. It was like just taking a big breath and relaxing while I taught and not, really being so cramped by time.
How about early faculty meetings or staff meetings? Any memories that you have?
Oh, yeah. It was such a different environment from the corporate world. First of all, I used to come in here every morning at exactly 8 o'clock. Nobody had told me what my hours were, And I had classes from morning, and then I also taught 2 nights a week. So the days that I taught till 10 o'clock, I was in here at 8 in the morning, and I left at 10 o'clock at night because, as far as I knew, that's what you did. Somebody gave me a list of committee meetings that I should go to, and I went, and it was like a foreign country and a foreign language. Everybody was so collegial and cared about what other people said. There wasn't this strict organizational hierarchy that I was used to before. As an example, I was on at that time it was the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, my second semester here. And I couldn't get over the fact that we met once a month to try and decide what we were going to talk about in another meeting. That concept of planning a conversation was new to me. But I would say I was on that for a year. And about halfway through, I kind of envisioned in my head that we had this little ball of academic freedom, this sacred, you can teach whatever you need to teach in the classroom however you want as long as you meet the outcomes. But in order for that not to just be craziness, we had to have this governance structure around it to keep everything in place. So I've always envisioned it as that. We have so much freedom. Academia, I think, just encourages free thought and exploration. But you still have to manage it in order to get the business part of education done. So I think our governance structure was something that was new to me. But after a while, it fit in for me.
Right. How about your image of the college? Compare it to when you first arrived and where you think we are today.
Today?
General image, yeah.
I don't think that's changed. Okay. I think within my first year, my image really has never changed. Within the first year, I learned how other people perceive MCC. Yeah. I would go to conventions or system-wide training opportunities, meetings, and I noticed quickly people seem to be jealous of MCC. And they would say, oh, yeah, of course, MCC, you get everything. You guys do everything. And I thought all the campuses were as beautiful as ours, and everybody was as nice and friendly. And I learned that while they're all good, maybe we really were the best, even though it seemed that way to me. Other people seem to think that. That hasn't changed. I would say over the 10 and a half years, the culture has always been, I always say, culture of nice. People are just nice to each other here. They're friendly. We're nice to students. We're nice to each other. There can be issues, but things always seem to work out for the best, and people put their best foot forward no matter what's going on. So to me, that image hasn't changed. Okay. I've certainly learned more about it. My perspective, as I've gone from faculty to administration, has changed.
Yeah. Tell us about some of that change, making that move from faculty to
that was huge. Yeah. I had been here about 3 years, and I wasn't a department chair yet when the academic dean at that time called me on a Friday morning and said, would I consider applying for a temporary position as a division director? I thought she was crazy. I was flattered that she thought it was something I could do, but I hadn't even been a department chair. Right. And all I knew is there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So I thanked her very much and said, I don't think I want to do that right now. But it planted that seed that maybe someday I could. I had really never thought of it before. I moved into a department chair position just after that and did that for about 5 years and grew the engineering department. That's probably my biggest accomplishment is seeing the growth of that. And then there was another temporary position that I applied for, and then I withdrew my application. I applied on a Friday, withdrew it on Monday because I just decided, no, I'm not ready yet. Then about 6 months later, the position I have now opened up, and I applied for that. And it was challenging going from working with colleagues, working with faculty as a peer, to becoming their supervisor. But they have been so wonderful. And, I'm not going to say there haven't been any issues, but there haven't been any insurmountable issues. Right. And I think maybe it took all of us a few months, the first few months of that fall semester, to figure out how we work together with their new roles. Right. But people were so supportive and continue to be, and I think it's gone well.
Right. Well, for your career here so far, any memorable moments that really kind of jump out at you that you could share with us?
Yeah, one in particular. At graduation 3 years ago, the valedictorian was a computer science student, and he thanked me by name in his speech. And I was speechless. We were sitting on the stage because it was raining that day, And I was listening to his talk, and then all of a sudden he thanked me for supporting him and encouraging him to really push himself. And I was stunned. And then I burst into tears because I was just so touched by the fact that he did that. And that really kind of validated everything that I'd been doing up to that point. And I still think about that a lot when I kind of question, am I doing the right thing? I've learned to kind of go with my gut. And for me, my gut is to help students, to walk them to the admissions office if they don't know where it is, to call them and see if they got into that class that they didn't have a prerequisite for. And I continue to do that because I feel like now I kind of see that it pays off for every student.
Okay. How about funny experiences? Anything funny that you can remember that happened, whether it's at a meeting or in a classroom situation?
I can't think of a particular experience, but I will say that the 4 division directors, myself and the other 3, humor gets us through our days, our meetings. We have 2 weekly meetings with the academic dean, and we sit in her office and cover long agendas of items, oftentimes that include very uncomfortable things with student complaints or issues with faculty or scheduling or all kinds of things. We really are involved with everything on campus. And the academic dean's secretary will afterwards say, all you guys did was laugh. And we do. We laugh. We see the humor in things. And I think that overall humor helps us keep perspective with what we're doing.
That's nice.
It makes it a lot more fun.
You've mentioned the student at graduation. How about colleagues? Anybody who's made kind of a lasting impression on you?
Can I say this name?
Yeah.
Okay. So Peter Poulos is a faculty member in engineering. He was my mentor when I was hired. And I think Peter is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's not only very intelligent, but he's very kind. And I've watched him do things for students, take them to other schools when they were too nervous to go for a tour, take them over there, take them to admissions, show them around. He continues to go the extra mile for students, but he also supported me and encouraged me to make the step into being a department chair and a division director. So I think if I had to pick anybody who really influenced me all along the way, it's him.
Okay. Any other memories that you have of, I'm trying to get faculty meetings especially. Any
faculty meetings?
That were either funny or...
Good ones, right?
Yeah, good one.
I guess not a specific one, but I remember our engineering meetings, our department meetings. We were originally 2 of us, and then 3 of us, then 4 of us, and we originally had about 75 students, and now there's about 480. When I became the department chair, it's a interesting position being department chair because the other people in the department don't work for you, but you need to get them to do things. So I always believe people respond really well to food. And every time we had an engineering department meeting, I brought food. And if I couldn't, I arranged for somebody else to bring some food. And one time there was no food. And everybody came and looked in the door, asked what we were having, and I said, I didn't bring anything. And then they left. And we didn't have a meeting that month because there was nothing to eat.
Wow. They are connected to food.
And I use that similar. I use that similar ploy in my office now. I don't think of it as buying friends, but it might be a little bit. I always have a candy bowl filled with candy on my table in my office, and I'm always amazed at the people who come by just to get a piece of candy who would never pop in my office otherwise. Marcia Jennings keeps Smarties in my candy bowl. That's her favorite candy. She doesn't want to keep them in her office because she says she'll eat too many. So they're in my office, so she has to get up and walk over. The candy bowl also, I found, has been kind of an excellent calming down tool. Many times I've had students with parents, adults come in, even faculty, who are upset about something. And we sit at the table, and there's a big bowl that's got chocolates and all kinds of candies in it. And I've noticed the more upset people are, the more candy they eat. But the more they eat, the more they calm down. And I've had people, come in very irate, sit down, and sometimes I'll turn away and purposefully busy myself with something else, just giving them a minute to breathe. And they start in at the candy. And by the time they leave, they're calm, and there could be a pile of wrappers that are 3 or 4 inches high, all the candy they've worked through. But I figured it's a cheap price to pay for having people come in upset and go away happy.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything that you'd like to add that maybe we haven't covered in our questions?
Nothing in particular, except this is the best place to work. I've worked at a lot of different companies, a lot of different businesses, a lot of different types of places. MCC is consistently a wonderful place. And through all the hardships we've had, and not that many hardships, but the ones that have occurred, and the uncomfortable situations, and the good and the bad, I think that we live our values. And that's unusual. I worked at a lot of places that had mission statements and values that were printed someplace. We all know what they are, and we live those. I think that's unusual.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very
Okay?
much. Yeah, thank you.